filmed under fire. These are the first pictures of America's great naval victory in the Pacific. Army, Navy, and Marine planes, cooperating with the fleet, surprise a Jap invasion force sent to capture strategic Midway Island.
The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor dealt a devastating blow to the U.S. Pacific Fleet. In its aftermath, the U.S. Navy got to work improving its intelligence gathering capabilities so that future attacks could be avoided. To disseminate battle plans among its ranks, the Japanese Imperial Navy, led by Admiral Yamamoto, utilized an encrypted code known as JN-25 Bravo. Cramped in the damp quarters of the dungeon, aka the basement, of the Station Hypo building in Pearl Harbor, the monumental task of decrypting JN-25 Bravo was given to a crackshot team of U.S. Navy cryptanalysts, led by Lieutenant Commander Thomas H. Dyer and Commander Joe Rochefort. The codebreakers made their first big revelation in early 1942, after discovering Japanese plans that referred to the target of an upcoming attack as Alpha Foxtrot. To crack this code, they instructed U.S. forces stationed on Midway to transmit a phony report over the radio, stating their freshwater system had malfunctioned. As anticipated, Japanese intelligence intercepted the message and then relayed the information in JN-25 Bravo, informing their superiors that Alpha Foxtrot was having problems with its freshwater system, and then relayed the information in JN-25B, informing their superiors that Alpha Foxtrot was having problems with its freshwater system. And so, there it was. Alpha Foxtrot meant U.S. Naval Air Station Midway. Midway, as the name suggests, is located roughly midway between Hawaii and Japan. The U.S. Navy built an air station there in August 1941, and now, 6 months after the attacks on Pearl Harbor, a fleet of Japanese warships, including 4 aircraft carriers, the Akagi, the Kaga, the Hiryu, and the Soryu, were attempting an invasion of the island. The confirmation of Midway as the target led U.S. Navy Admiral Chester Nimitz to secretly stage a fleet of aircraft carriers within striking range of Midway. The ambush was on. On the morning of June 4th, 1942, the Japanese attack on Midway began. The Marines on Midway were battered, but put up a fierce fight. While the Japanese forces were distracted, their carriers, which were the U.S.'s targets, were left undefended. Lieutenant Commander Dick Best, great name, raced off the flight deck of the USS Enterprise in his Dauntless dive bomber. The pilot climbed to 20,000 feet over the North Pacific Ocean, joining a massive fleet of American aircraft bound for the Midway Atoll. Best's 18-plane bomber squadron approached the atoll, where columns of thick black smoke rose into the sky. The bombers flew into the fray, reached their targets undetected, and dropped their payloads, blowing up Akagi's flight deck, crippling its rudders, and destroying a handful of Japanese planes. With the Akagi now effectively dead in the water, Best's formation turned back toward the Enterprise. A wall of anti-aircraft fire erupted. Of the 18 bombers, 14 were either shot down, badly damaged, or forced to make emergency landings. But that didn't stop Best. He returned to Midway on a second bombing raid against Hiryu, the only one of the 4 Japanese carriers that survived the morning attack. This time, the Japanese were ready for them. The continuous current of muzzle blasts was unlike anything Best had ever seen. Yet, despite the maelstrom of enemy fire, his formation managed to hit the Hiryu, igniting fires that sent its crew overboard and eventually caused the ship to sink. Best and his comrades' heroic actions that day would ultimately prove significant beyond the battle itself, and he was eventually awarded the Navy Cross. The Japanese attack on Midway was intended to be a death blow to the U.S. Pacific Fleet. A successful invasion would have left the American Navy in tatters and allowed Japan to establish a stronghold within striking distance of Hawaii. Thankfully, the plan completely backfired. In the 4-day battle, the Japanese lost 4 aircraft carriers, all on day 1, 1 cruiser, hundreds of aircraft, and approximately 3,057 men, including more than 200 of their best pilots. The Americans lost the Yorktown, 145 aircraft, a destroyer, and approximately 360 service members. Japan's defeat in the Battle of Midway crushed morale among its troops, as it marked the end of their military dominance in the Pacific. Its momentum lost, Japan relinquished its plans for future attacks on US soil and assumed a defensive posture. Meanwhile, the Allies went on the offensive. An aggressive island-hopping campaign achieved a series of victories in Tarawa, Peleliu, Saipan, Guam, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa, and didn't relent until Japan surrendered following the nuclear attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.